They called her a thief in front of everyone, dragged her out of her own store, the one that carried her name on every wall. There were no tears in her eyes, just the calm that comes before a storm. Watch until the end to see how this incredible story unfolds, and let us know what time you're watching today. A cold, quiet morning unfolds in a small town where light gently spills over empty streets. The air is crisp and still, carrying the faint smell of damp earth and distant wood smoke. A row of old brick buildings stand side by side, their facades worn by time, yet full of silent stories. One such building, a car dealership with glass windows fogged by the early chill, sets the stage for what is about to come. In front of the dealership, a worn-out bench sits beneath a tall, leafless tree. Its branches stretch upward as if reaching for a forgotten hope. The soft hum of a distant radio mixes with the gentle whisper of a breeze. In this simple setting, the scene is set for a story that will soon twist the ordinary into something unforgettable. Aisha steps onto the scene, her presence as calm as it is strong. Her skin glows with a warmth that defies the cool morning air, and her eyes carry a quiet fire, a spark born of dreams and hard-won resilience. She walks slowly along the cracked pavement, her footsteps measured and steady. There is a heaviness in her gaze, a silent reminder of past wounds and the struggles that have marked her journey. Aisha's thoughts wander as she makes her way toward the dealership, a place that holds painful memories. Last week, in a moment of cruel misunderstanding, she was sent away without an explanation. The sting of that rejection still lingers, a reminder of a harsh world that often fails to see the truth behind a gentle smile. Yet, as she walks, there is determination in every step, a promise that she will not let this moment define her. The soft light of dawn illuminates her face, revealing delicate features set in an expression that is both tender and resolute. Aisha wears simple clothes that hint at both elegance and practicality. Her eyes, clear and deep, reflect a life of both struggle and hope. Even in the midst of hurt, there is a sense of quiet dignity that surrounds her. As she nears the dealership, the building looms like a relic from a different time. The faded sign above the door barely reads automobiles, yet it carries the weight of countless days filled with dreams and disappointments. Inside, the silence is broken only by the echo of her footsteps on the cold, tiled floor. Memories of laughter, of long conversations about hopes and plans, now mix with the sharp sting of isolation. Aisha pauses at the threshold, her hand lingering on the cool metal of the door. She closes her eyes and takes a deep breath, trying to steady the turbulence inside. There is an unspoken conversation between her heart and the silent walls of the dealership, a plea for understanding that goes unheard by the indifferent world outside. For a moment, she allows herself to remember the promise of a better life, a time when the world seemed full of possibility. In that quiet moment, the early light shifts as the sun climbs higher, casting long shadows that dance slowly on the ground. These shadows seem to whisper secrets of what is to come, hints of change and unexpected turns. The building, once a simple structure, now feels alive with the echoes of the past and the potential for a future yet to be written. Aisha steps away from the door and walks along the sidewalk, each step carrying the weight of a recent pain and the strength of her resolve. There is a soft clatter from a nearby alley where a stray cat scampers past, its eyes gleaming in the half-light. This small moment of life in an otherwise empty scene reminds her that even in solitude, there is movement and possibility. Her thoughts drift to the one constant in her life, her husband, Malik. Though their love has been tested by the harsh realities of life, Malik's presence remains a steady, if complex, part of her existence. His wealth and influence have often shielded her from the harsher judgments of society, yet today, that very power has also drawn the unwanted attention of those who seek to diminish her. The memory of being cast out at the dealership remains vivid, a wound that has not yet begun to heal. In that painful rejection, Aisha finds both sorrow and the seed of a deeper story, one that speaks of honor, sacrifice, and the unyielding search for justice. As the morning unfolds, a gentle murmur of voices begins to rise in the town. Street vendors set up their small stalls, their chatter blending with the rustling of leaves and the distant clanging of a shop door. The world seems to awaken slowly, with every sound hinting at life's ongoing rhythm. A rhythm that, for Aisha, beats with the promise of renewal despite the scars of yesterday. In the midst of this everyday bustle, Aisha's heart holds a private conflict. She remembers the day when harsh words and cold stares drove her away, a day when her dignity was questioned and her worth diminished by those who did not know her. This internal battle has forged in her a spirit that is unyielding even as her eyes betray moments of vulnerability. The hurt of that day is balanced by an inner fire, a deep belief that every challenge is a step toward a future where truth will prevail. As she walks, the memory of that fateful day plays out in fragments, a whispered insult here, a harsh dismissal there. Yet, each memory is interwoven with the promise of a second chance. The quiet strength that defines Aisha is not the absence of pain, but the courage to carry on despite it. She knows that every moment of hardship has shaped her, leaving a mark that is both gentle and powerful. The morning grows brighter, and with the light comes a subtle change in the air. A distant rumble, barely audible at first, grows louder as time moves on. This sound, like the soft purr of a mighty engine, hints at the arrival of something unexpected, a shift in the very fabric of her reality. It is as if the universe itself is preparing to rewrite the rules of her life, offering a chance for redemption in the most surprising form. Aisha's pace quickens as she senses that this day will not be ordinary. The gentle sound of the engine mingles with the soft hum of the awakening town, creating a quiet symphony that stirs hope in her heart. With every step, she feels that her story is on the verge of a new chapter, one that will bring not only retribution for past wounds, but also a chance to reclaim her identity and stand tall in the face of injustice. In the quiet moments before the day fully unfolds, Aisha stands at a crossroads, a point where the echoes of her past meet the promise of a future that is both uncertain and filled with possibility. She is a figure of quiet resilience, marked by both pain and an enduring hope that refuses to fade away. The scene around her, with its soft light and gentle sounds, serves as a silent witness to the strength that lies within her. This early hour, with its mix of light and shadow, sets the stage for a story that will soon take unexpected turns. The delicate balance of beauty and pain, the soft murmur of life interwoven with the harsh reality of rejection, all point to the journey that Aisha is about to embark on. Her heart beats with a steady rhythm, carrying the weight of yesterday and the promise of tomorrow in each pulse. As the day advances, the quiet town begins to stir with life and purpose. Aisha's eyes remain fixed on the horizon, where the promise of a new beginning glows softly. Her silent determination is a beacon in the gentle morning light, a sign that even in moments of deep hurt, there lies the potential for healing and the unexpected arrival of change. In this simple yet profound moment, the foundation is laid for a story of loss, love, and the relentless quest for dignity. Aisha, with all her strength and grace, steps forward into a day that promises both challenge and hope. The past may have left its mark, but the future awaits with an unspoken promise. A promise that in every ending there is a beginning, and in every pain, a chance to rise again. A chill wind swept through the empty parking lot as Aisha stepped away from the dealership. Her heart still pounded from the sting of rejection when a soft rumble caught her attention. She turned slowly, her eyes searching the horizon, and there it was, a sleek, black car rolling smoothly into view. Its polished surface shone under the rising sun, and for a moment, the world around her seemed to pause. Aisha's breath caught in her throat as the car came to a gentle stop. The tinted windows concealed the figure inside, leaving her to wonder who could be behind the wheel at such an unexpected hour. In that instant, the earlier pain of being cast aside at the dealership faded into a distant murmur. Instead, a strange mix of hope and confusion stirred within her. Stepping closer to the car, Aisha felt a shiver that was not entirely due to the cool air. The engine was silent now, and as the door slowly swung open, she caught a glimpse of a familiar silhouette. It was Malik, her husband, a man whose presence had always been a source of both comfort and mystery in her life. But something in his posture and the way he regarded her made her pause. His expression held a secret that he had not shared with her before. Before Aisha could speak, Malik stepped out of the car with measured steps, his eyes dark and steady, fixed on her with an intensity that made her heart flutter uncertainly. For a long moment, they stood facing each other, the quiet of the morning interrupted only by the soft hum of the departing engine. Malik's presence was commanding, yet his gaze was clouded with an emotion that Aisha could not place, a mix of regret and resolve. Without a word, Malik reached into the car and retrieved a small, sealed envelope from the passenger seat. He held it out to Aisha as if it were a fragile relic from another world. The envelope bore no name or markings, only a single, elegant script that read, "For Aisha." Her hand trembled slightly as she accepted it, the cool paper sending a shiver up her arm. A moment of silence stretched between them, heavy with unsaid words and unspoken fears. Aisha's eyes searched Malik's face for answers, but found only a guarded look that hinted at secrets too deep to reveal on a simple morning. The envelope felt weighty in her hand, as if it carried not just a message, but the weight of a fate she was only beginning to grasp. With trembling fingers, Aisha broke the seal and unfolded the letter. The handwriting was familiar yet distant, as if it were written by someone who knew her heart better than she knew herself. The words on the page stirred emotions she had long kept hidden. They spoke of betrayal and hidden truths, of a past that was intricately woven with the present in ways she had never imagined. As she read, a lump formed in her throat. The letter hinted that the incident at the dealership was no random act, but part of a larger scheme, one that had been in motion for some time. It suggested that forces beyond her control had conspired to humiliate her, and that the rejection she had suffered was merely the first step in a carefully laid plan. The words were simple, yet they carried a gravity that left her breathless. Malik watched silently as Aisha absorbed the contents of the letter. The silence between them deepened, carrying with it the sound of distant sirens and the soft rustling of leaves. Every second felt like an eternity as she tried to make sense of the message. The letter spoke of hidden motives and warned of a betrayal that was waiting in the shadows, a betrayal that threatened to shatter the fragile peace of her world. Aisha's mind raced. Questions flooded her thoughts. Who had written this letter? What secret did it hide? And why had it been delivered by Malik, the man who had been both her shield and her mystery? Her heart ached with the weight of uncertainty. Each line of the letter painted a picture of a hidden world where trust was a rare treasure and loyalty could be bought or stolen in a heartbeat. In that quiet moment, the world around her seemed to transform. The soft light of morning took on a sharper edge, and the gentle murmur of the waking town grew into a background hum of impending change. The car, the envelope, and the unspoken tension between her and Malik merged into a single point of destiny, a moment that promised to change everything. As Aisha folded the letter carefully, her eyes met Malik's once again. His gaze was filled with a mix of sorrow and determination, a silent confession of regrets too heavy to carry alone. It was then that she sensed the first real crack in the armor that had long protected their lives. Behind the calm exterior lay a storm of emotions and hidden truths that were ready to break free. The letter was not the only sign of what was to come. In the distance, a figure watched them from behind a row of trees. A flash of movement, a shadow slipping away, went almost unnoticed by Malik, but Aisha's keen eyes caught the glimpse. Her heart sank as she realized that someone was there, someone who did not belong in the comfort of her familiar life. The silent observer was a reminder that the events of that morning were only the opening notes of a larger, more dangerous melody. The letter hinted at a betrayal that would shake the very foundation of her world. A betrayal that was not just a single act, but a series of choices made in darkness. The mystery of the letter and the unexpected appearance of Malik's car created a ripple that disturbed the calm surface of her everyday existence. Aisha felt as though she were standing on the edge of a precipice, one step away from a fall that could shatter her life. Her mind swirled with the possibilities. The letter suggested that someone close, someone trusted, might have been involved in the scheme that led to her public humiliation. The thought sent a chill down her spine. The man who had once promised to stand by her side now seemed like a stranger, his actions shrouded in secrets. Was this a test of her resolve? Or was it a signal of a deeper, more painful truth that was yet to be revealed? The soft rustling of the trees and the distant sounds of the town created a backdrop to her inner turmoil. Each sound echoed like a question in her heart. She could feel the pulse of the day, quickening, the simple rhythm of life now marked by the beating of a troubled heart. In that moment, everything she thought she knew began to unravel. The letter was a silent warning that the calm days were over and that a new, uncertain chapter was about to begin. Aisha's eyes never left Malik's as she spoke softly, her voice barely rising above a whisper. "Why are you here, Malik? What have you set in motion?" Her words hung in the air, heavy with both hurt and the desperate need for answers. Malik's silence was profound, and his eyes betrayed a mix of regret and the burden of hidden choices. In that silent exchange, the truth of their lives began to seep into the space between them. The moment was both painful and profound, a turning point that set the stage for all that was to follow. The arrival of the car, the mysterious letter, and the unexpected presence of a shadow in the background wove together to create a tapestry of doubt and emerging conflict. Aisha stood there, caught between the comfort of what had been and the fear of what might come, knowing that the delicate balance of her world had been forever altered. The morning light grew stronger as the scene unfolded, each ray of sun highlighting the fine line between trust and betrayal. With the letter clutched tightly in her hand, Aisha felt a resolve harden inside her. The path ahead was uncertain, and the secrets that lay hidden would demand to be unearthed. As the day continued to break, so, too, did the veneer of calm that had long cloaked her life, revealing the raw, aching truth beneath. In that charged moment, the stage was set for a journey into the unknown. A journey that promised to reveal both the darkest betrayals and the most unexpected acts of redemption. Aisha took a slow, deliberate step forward, leaving behind the remnants of her shattered past and stepping into a future that beckoned with the promise of painful truths and the hope of a new beginning. Aisha walked slowly toward the small cafe on the corner, the letter still warm in her hand. The street was quiet as she entered, the soft murmur of low conversations wrapping around her like a familiar cloak. Inside, the smell of fresh coffee mixed with the earthy aroma of baked bread. Malik sat in a secluded booth, his eyes fixed on a cup of coffee that had long grown cold. His presence was a quiet storm, and his silence spoke of things he could not yet share. As Aisha approached, Malik looked up. His gaze held a mixture of regret and something else, an unspoken question, as if he sought permission to speak of secrets that had long troubled him. "Aisha," he began, his voice low and measured, "I know you have many questions." His tone was gentle, yet every word weighed with years of withheld truth. Aisha sat down across from him. "I want to know what that letter means," she said softly, her eyes searching his face for any hint of reassurance. "Why did you bring it to me? What have we gotten into?" Malik sighed, a sound filled with sorrow. "There are things I have kept hidden," he confessed. "I did not wish to hurt you, but the past is not so easily left behind. I have long carried a secret that now threatens to unravel all that we have built." Aisha leaned forward, her heart aching with both hope and uncertainty. "What secret, Malik? I trusted you. I believed we shared everything." Her voice trembled, the words heavy with both disappointment and longing. He looked down, the shadows of his thoughts playing across his features. "I once made choices that I thought were best at the time. I wanted to protect you, to keep our life safe from harm. But those choices have come back to haunt us." His eyes met hers, And in that moment, Aisha saw the weight of regret that had long defined him. A quiet pause fell between them. Around the small table, the low hum of conversation filled the air, yet Aisha and Malik were locked in a world of their own, a space filled with raw emotion and hidden pain. Aisha's mind raced with memories of a time when their love had been uncomplicated, when the world had seemed kinder. Now, every smile was touched by sorrow, every look shadowed by doubt. I remember when we first met, Malik continued, his voice barely above a whisper. You were vibrant and full of dreams. I promised to shield you from every storm. Yet now I fear I have only invited more darkness. His eyes searched hers, pleading for understanding. I never meant for you to be hurt by the decisions I made. Aisha's heart softened for a moment as she recalled the early days of their life together, days filled with hope and gentle laughter. I do remember, she replied, her voice quiet yet firm. But the hurt I feel now is real. I cannot simply forget what happened at the dealership. That day, I felt discarded as if I had no worth. Her words carried the echo of that painful morning, the sting of public rejection that had shaken her very being. Malik reached out across the table, his hand hovering near hers. I have tried to atone for that day, even if in small ways, he said, his voice trembling with emotion. The letter was my attempt to bridge the gap between us. It is not just a note, but a call for us to confront the shadows together. Aisha pulled her hand back slightly, her eyes filled with both longing and apprehension. Confront them? How can we face what we do not fully understand? I feel as if every step I take is on a path paved with secrets. She paused, her gaze drifting to the window where a soft light illuminated the city street. What do you fear the most, Malik? Is it that I might see you differently knowing all the truths? His expression was troubled. I fear that my past will drive a wedge between us, he admitted. I fear that the people we trusted, the friends we held dear, might be part of a plan that goes far beyond our personal strife. There are whispers of betrayal, voices that suggest our lives have been manipulated by forces unknown. I never wanted to believe it, but now I see hints of it everywhere. Aisha's eyes widened, the sound of her heartbeat echoing in her ears. Who? Who would do such a thing? She demanded, the urgency in her voice betraying the calm facade she tried to maintain. We have been together for so long, and now it seems that even those we trusted have played a part in this. Malik looked down, his fingers tracing the rim of his cup. I have long suspected that there are others with their own motives, people who see our union not as a source of strength, but as a threat to their own ambitions. The letter was meant to be a warning, a subtle nod to the fact that not everything is as it appears. His voice dropped to a murmur, heavy with the realization of the cost of hidden alliances. The two sat in a silence that was both profound and unsettling. Aisha's mind churned with the possibilities, each one more painful than the last. In the quiet of that small cafe, the layers of their shared life began to peel away, revealing vulnerabilities that had long been masked by routine and quiet pride. After a long moment, Aisha spoke, her voice trembling with quiet determination. I want to trust you, Malik. I want to believe that you are trying to protect us from this storm. But how can I know that you are not part of it? How can I be sure that your secrets do not hide a betrayal I cannot bear? Malik's eyes met hers, filled with the kind of pain that comes from a lifetime of regret. I understand your fear, he said gently. Every day, I battle with the choices I made, choices that have brought us to this crossroads. I have always tried to act in your best interest, even when it meant sacrificing my own peace. I can only ask that you look at my actions over the years, the quiet moments where I put your well-being above all else. Let that be the measure of my truth. Aisha listened, the truth of his words resonating deep within her. Yet, her heart remained guarded. I will try, she whispered, her voice barely audible. But know that if I find even a small crack in the facade of our trust, I will not stand by and watch our world crumble. Outside the cafe, the day continued to unfold with a deceptive calm. The gentle chatter of passers-by, the soft clinking of dishes from the nearby counter, all stood in stark contrast to the storm brewing within the small booth. Malik's confession, filled with remorse and careful admissions, only deepened the chasm between their past and what might come next. As they sat together, the conversation shifted from the weight of shared secrets to moments of introspection. Malik recalled a night long past, a night when laughter had filled their home and dreams had seemed as endless as the starry sky. He spoke of the little things, a shared smile, a comforting touch that once made their bond unbreakable. His words were tinged with sorrow, each memory a reminder of a simpler time before the current storm of uncertainty. Aisha, too, allowed herself to reflect on the good days, her mind replaying scenes of a love unburdened by hidden truths. "I remember when we walked by the river," she said softly, a faint smile touching her lips. "The water was so still, and for a moment I believed nothing could disturb us. Those moments were our safe haven." Yet, as she spoke, her eyes flickered with a shadow of doubt. The safe haven now felt like a distant dream, overlaid by the present reality that demanded answers. Their conversation continued, each word drawing them closer even as the gaps widened. Every admission, every confession, was a step toward understanding the forces that had conspired to shake their world. Malik's voice sometimes broke under the weight of his revelations, while Aisha's questions became sharper, more insistent as she sought clarity in a labyrinth of uncertainties. In that modest corner of the cafe, the lives of Aisha and Malik became a tapestry woven with threads of hope and despair. The discussion was not one of blame, but of a shared desire to reclaim a future that had been tarnished by the echoes of past missteps and looming threats. Their dialogue, punctuated by quiet pauses and heavy sighs, revealed the depth of their commitment and the fragile trust that bound them. As the light shifted and afternoon edged closer, the conversation drew to a close, leaving both with more questions than answers. Yet, in that shared silence, there was a glimmer of resolve. They understood that the path ahead was fraught with danger, that hidden hands still moved in the background, but they also recognized that together they might stand against the coming storm. Each was determined to face the darkness, armed with nothing more than the strength of their memories and the unspoken hope that love could somehow conquer the betrayal that threatened to tear them apart. Aisha sat in the dim light of her study, the early evening casting long shadows on the walls. Her mind was still reeling from the conversation at the cafe with Malik. As she held the letter in her trembling hands, a sudden realization began to form. A feeling that something deeper was hidden beneath the surface of their lives. The quiet of the room was broken only by the soft ticking of an old clock on the wall, each tick drawing her closer to a revelation she had not expected. Late that night, as rain tapped lightly on the window, Aisha carefully placed the letter on her desk. Her eyes scanned its familiar handwriting again, and she noticed a small, nearly invisible stamp in the corner of the envelope. It was not Malik's mark, nor did it belong to anyone she recognized. Her heart pounded as she reached for an old magnifying glass, determined to inspect the mysterious symbol more closely. The stamp bore a series of numbers and letters, a code that she could not decipher on her own. A chill crept over her as she began to suspect that this letter was a part of a larger puzzle. In the days that followed, Aisha found herself caught between despair and a desperate need for answers. She questioned every memory, every conversation she had shared with Malik. There was a time when their lives had seemed simpler, when every secret had its place in the soft murmur of trust. Now that trust felt brittle, as if a single hidden detail could shatter it completely. One rainy afternoon, as she sat by the window, Malik arrived unexpectedly. His face was drawn and his eyes were downcast, as if he had been carrying a heavy burden. He hesitated at the doorway before entering her study, the sound of the rain blending with the unspoken tension between them. Aisha looked up, her voice low and uncertain. "Malik, we need to talk about the letter," she said, her words steady despite the tremor in her voice. Malik's eyes flickered with a mixture of regret and anxiety. He moved to sit beside her, though a palpable distance remained between them. "There is something I have not told you," he began slowly. His voice was soft and measured, but it did not ease the knot in her stomach. I never meant for this to come to pass. I thought I was protecting you from a past that should have remained buried. Aisha's eyes widened as she searched his face, trying to catch a glimpse of the truth in his expression. Protect me? Then why hide this? Why bring me a letter that is not even from you? She asked, her tone rising with emotion. Her mind raced, connecting fragments of memories that now seemed to hide a secret she had never considered. Malik sighed heavily. There was a time when I worked with someone very close to us, a friend who knew both our families well. He was trusted by all who knew him, someone who always appeared to be on our side. But I have come to learn that his intentions were far from pure. His voice dropped as he recalled events long buried under layers of polite conversation and past promises. He wanted to see us fall apart, to use our vulnerabilities for his own gain. Aisha's heart sank. The friend Malik mentioned was none other than Farid, a man who had been a quiet presence in their social circles for years. Farid was charming and well-spoken, always ready with a kind word or a gentle smile. To Aisha, he had seemed like a supportive figure, someone who offered his guidance in times of need. Now, it appeared that Farid had been weaving a web of deceit behind the scenes. Malik continued, his voice barely a whisper. Farid had been manipulating events from the shadows. He crafted the circumstances that led to your rejection at the dealership. He saw it as an opportunity to drive a wedge between us, believing that by sowing doubt and mistrust, he could benefit from our downfall. His eyes met hers, pleading for her understanding, even as he revealed the painful truth. Aisha felt a surge of anger mixed with sorrow. "So you knew all along," she demanded, her voice trembling with disbelief. "You knew that Farid was behind this, and yet you never told me?" The accusation hung in the air, a bitter taste of betrayal that filled the room. Her mind was overwhelmed by the idea that the man she had trusted with her life had been keeping secrets that could tear her world apart. Malik's gaze dropped to his hands, and he spoke slowly, each word a painful admission. "I did suspect his involvement, but I was afraid. I was afraid that confronting the truth would shatter what little stability we had left. I thought I could manage it on my own, that I could protect you by keeping you in the dark." His confession was filled with remorse. Yet the words did little to soothe the deep hurt that had taken root in Aisha's heart. Aisha's eyes filled with tears as she recalled the day she had been humiliated at the dealership, the shock and confusion of being treated as if she were nothing more than an inconvenience. Now, the memory was tainted with the knowledge that it had been orchestrated by someone who pretended to be a friend. "How could you let him do this?" she whispered, her voice barely audible over the sound of the rain. "I trusted you, Malik. I believed that our bond was strong enough to overcome any hardship." The silence that followed was heavy with unspoken pain. Malik reached out, his hand hovering near hers. But Aisha pulled away, as if the touch might ignite a further wound. The room felt colder now, the familiar warmth of shared memories replaced by the stark reality of betrayal. The revelation that Farid had deliberately engineered their misfortune was like a dark cloud settling over everything they had built together. For hours they sat in that room, the rain outside echoing the tumult within. Malik's explanations came slowly, each sentence peeling away a layer of hidden truth. He revealed how Farid had used his influence to stir up resentment among those who might benefit from their separation. He admitted that his own inaction had allowed the situation to escalate, that fear had kept him silent when he should have spoken out. Every word was a reminder that the past was never truly gone. It had a way of returning when least expected, demanding to be faced. Aisha listened, her mind reeling with the implications. The man she had seen as her protector had allowed a trusted friend to betray them both, and the fallout was only beginning to show its dangerous shape. The revelation shattered the fragile trust that had once held them together, leaving behind a trail of questions and deep-seated pain. Who else had been in on Farid's plans? What other secrets lay hidden in the shadows of their seemingly ordinary lives? As the night wore on, Aisha felt a hard resolve begin to form. The anger that had bubbled up within her was tempered by a determination to uncover every truth, no matter how painful. "I need to know everything," she said softly, her voice firm despite the tears that streamed down her face. "I need to understand how far this betrayal goes and who else has been involved." Malik nodded, his own eyes reflecting the sorrow of his mistakes. "I will tell you all that I know," he promised, his tone earnest and heavy with regret. "I was blinded by my fear of losing you. I thought that by keeping you away from this darkness, I could spare you the pain. But in doing so, I only made things worse." The revelation of Farid's treachery marked a turning point in their lives. What had once seemed like a personal slight was now revealed as part of a much larger plan, one that aimed to undo the very foundations of trust and love that Aisha and Malik had built. As the rain finally began to ease outside, the two of them sat in a fragile silence, each lost in their own thoughts. The truth had changed everything. In that quiet moment, they both understood that their journey was no longer just about mending a broken heart or recovering from a single act of cruelty. It was now about facing an enemy hidden within their midst, an enemy whose betrayal had already left deep scars. The pain of the revelation was tempered by a small, stubborn spark of hope. Despite the deep wounds of betrayal, Aisha felt that this truth, as devastating as it was, might be the first step toward healing. If they could confront the past and expose the treacherous forces that had sought to destroy them, perhaps there was a way to reclaim what had been lost. The night stretched on, filled with whispered promises and tentative plans to seek out the remaining pieces of the puzzle that Farid had left behind. In the quiet that followed, Aisha's mind raced with the implications of Malik's confession. The betrayal had shifted the ground beneath her feet, forcing her to reconsider every moment of her past. She realized that the journey ahead would be one of both discovery and reckoning, a path that demanded courage in the face of deep hurt and the resolve to rebuild trust from the shattered remains of her life. The betrayal was a wound that might never fully heal, but it also lit a fire within her that would not easily be extinguished. As the first light of dawn began to creep through the curtains, Aisha and Malik sat together in the dim glow of their study. Their conversation, raw and unguarded, had changed the nature of their relationship. It was a turning point, a moment when hidden truths came to light, irrevocably altering the course of their lives. In that fragile moment, as the night gave way to a new day, they both understood that their next steps would require honesty, bravery, and a willingness to confront the darkness that had long lurked in the corners of their shared past. Aisha stood by the window, watching the world outside shift from the soft light of dawn to a day filled with uneasy calm. The revelation of Farid's deceit had left her feeling raw and exposed, as if every hidden corner of her life was now illuminated in harsh clarity. The once familiar streets of her town appeared changed, the faces of passers-by now bearing hints of secrets she had only begun to understand. Inside the modest living room, the silence between her and Malik was heavy. Their earlier conversation still hung in the air like a dark cloud. Malik sat on the worn sofa, his gaze fixed on a spot on the floor, while Aisha paced slowly near the window, her thoughts tangled in questions without answers. After a long moment, Malik spoke in a low tone, "I know this changes everything." His words were simple, yet each one carried the weight of regret. He looked up, meeting Aisha's eyes with a mixture of sorrow and determination. "I have spent many nights awake, tormented by what I kept hidden. I thought I could protect you, but I see now that silence has only brought more pain." Aisha stopped pacing and turned to face him, her voice trembling slightly. "What were you so afraid of? I have a right to know the truth. I deserve to understand why my life was turned upside down, why I was humiliated in such a public way." Her tone was steady despite the tremor of hurt that still echoed in her heart. Malik's eyes glistened as he replied, "I was afraid of losing you, of seeing the trust between us break completely. I feared that if I revealed everything, you would no longer see the man who has always tried to stand by your side. I thought keeping these matters hidden would keep us safe from more harm." His voice wavered as he admitted, But I see now that hiding the truth has only built a wall between us. Outside, the day grew darker with gathering clouds, and a steady drizzle began to fall. The sound of rain tapping on the window echoed the growing unrest within the room. Aisha's mind raced with memories, small moments where hints of betrayal had passed like fleeting shadows in their lives. Now, those moments took on a new meaning, each one a reminder of the price they might have paid for the safety of silence. I cannot help but feel trapped, Aisha said softly, her eyes drifting to the raindrops sliding down the glass. Every choice we have made seems to lead us deeper into a maze of secrets and lies. I am torn between the comfort of what we once shared and the harsh reality of this new truth. Her voice dropped, and she seemed lost in thought. I do not know if I can trust you again, Malik. The hurt is too fresh and the doubts too many. Malik reached out slowly, his hand hovering near hers, as if seeking forgiveness through a touch. I understand your anger. I have made mistakes that have cost us dearly. I regret not speaking up sooner, even though my fear kept me silent. I want to fix this, to stand with you against those who wish to see us fall apart. His words were laden with regret, each one a plea for another chance, for a way to rebuild the trust that had been shattered. Aisha withdrew her hand, her eyes clouded with conflicting emotions. The truth may be the first step, but it is not enough by itself, she replied quietly. I need to see that you are willing to face the consequences of your actions, that you are prepared to fight for what we have lost. She paused, glancing around the room as if searching for a sign, a symbol of hope amid the despair. This betrayal has not only affected me, but it has also drawn in forces that are far beyond our control. I worry for us, for our future, and for the life we built together. A sudden knock at the door startled both of them. The sound echoed through the room, its sharp tone cutting through the heavy silence. Malik exchanged a brief, troubled look with Aisha before rising to answer it. When he opened the door, a soaked messenger stood there, holding a small envelope. The messenger's eyes were dark and solemn, and he offered no explanation as he handed over the envelope before disappearing into the rainy street. Malik returned to the room, holding the envelope with trembling hands. Aisha's eyes widened as she saw the seal on it, a seal that matched the one on the earlier letter, now seeming to carry even more significance. Malik looked at her, his face lined with worry. This is another message, Aisha. I do not know what it holds, but I fear it may bring more questions than answers. He broke the seal carefully, unfolding the note with a deliberate slowness that made each movement feel laden with meaning. The note was brief, its words stark and unadorned. It warned of a meeting at an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of town, urging her to come alone if she wished to learn the full extent of the betrayal. The message was unsigned, but the style was unmistakably similar to the previous notes. The idea of a meeting in such a place, especially alone, filled Aisha with a mix of dread and resolve. Her heart pounded as she looked at Malik, seeking guidance. What is this? Why would someone want me to go there alone? What will I find? Her voice quivered, caught between fear and the need for answers. Malik hesitated before speaking. I believe this is part of the plan, part of the web that Fard and his allies have woven around us. They want to see us divided, to drive us to make choices that will leave us vulnerable. I cannot stop you from going, but I urge you to be cautious. There may be dangers that I cannot face if you are alone. His tone was firm, yet laced with worry. The rain continued to fall outside, its steady rhythm mirroring the pulse of anxiety that filled the room. Aisha felt the weight of the decision pressing upon her. The idea of venturing into the unknown was frightening, yet the need for the truth burned within her. The internal conflict was stark, the desire to seek out the hidden layers of betrayal versus the instinct to retreat to the safety of what she knew. I need to go, Aisha said after a long silence, her voice firm despite the uncertainty in her eyes. I must see what lies at the end of this message, even if it means stepping into danger. I cannot allow this web of secrets to control my life any longer. Her determination was clear, even as her heart thumped with anxiety. Malik's face fell as he absorbed her words. "I will go with you," he insisted. "I cannot bear the thought of you facing this alone, especially when I have contributed to this mess." His voice was low and earnest, the sincerity of his concern evident in every word. Yet, even as he spoke, there was a flicker of hesitation, a silent acknowledgement that their paths might soon diverge in ways neither of them could control. Aisha reached out and grasped Malik's hand, her eyes meeting his in a moment of shared resolve. "We must do this together, whether the truth is kind or cruel. I cannot undo the past, but I can choose to confront the future head-on." Her words were steady, carrying the promise of action amid the lingering pain of betrayal. With the decision made, the two of them began to prepare for the uncertain journey ahead. Outside, the rain showed no sign of letting up, as if the sky itself mourned the upheaval in their lives. Each moment felt charged with a sense of impending consequence, every step a move closer to the meeting at the warehouse. The air in their small home grew thick with worry and anticipation, blending the scent of rain-soaked earth with the bitter tang of fear. As the hour of departure neared, Malik and Aisha gathered what they might need, nothing extravagant, only the essentials for a night that promised to change their lives further. The decision to face the unknown together was not one made lightly, for both knew that every secret uncovered might come with a price. The weight of their shared history and the looming threat of further betrayal pressed down on them as they stepped into the night. Walking side by side under the shelter of a small umbrella, they moved through the darkened streets. The rain washed over them, blurring the familiar outlines of their town and replacing them with shapes that seemed to whisper of hidden dangers. Aisha's thoughts were a jumble of fear and resolve. Each step carried her away from the safety of what she once knew and toward a destiny fraught with difficult choices. In the back of her mind, the memory of the earlier rejection at the dealership, the sting of humiliation, and the fresh wound of betrayal mingled into a single, painful sensation. The meeting at the warehouse was no longer just a search for truth. It was a test of strength, of whether she could reclaim a sense of dignity in a world that had turned its back on her. With Malik by her side, she hoped that the journey would also bring healing, even as it forced her to confront the deepest parts of her heart. The night stretched long and dark before them, every moment filled with the tension of unspoken threats and the burden of past mistakes. Their path ahead was uncertain, and each step felt as if it might lead them closer to either salvation or further sorrow. Yet, in that uncertain darkness, Aisha held onto a spark of determination, a small light that promised that even the hardest truths could eventually lead to a place of understanding. Together, they walked into the rainy night, each step a silent pledge to face whatever lay ahead, no matter how perilous, no matter how painful. The world around them was fraught with hidden dangers and choices that could not be undone. But for now, they moved forward with the hope that the truth, once uncovered, might set them free. Aisha and Malik arrived at the abandoned warehouse under a stormy sky. Rain battered the cracked pavement as they approached the heavy, rusted door. Every step echoed like a heartbeat in the silence of the night. They exchanged glances, both aware that nothing would be the same once they stepped inside. The darkness ahead held the promise of long-buried secrets and the possibility of final answers. Inside, the warehouse was vast and empty, its walls marked by the scars of time and neglect. Beams of moonlight fought through broken windows, casting long, dramatic shadows on the dusty floor. The air was cold and heavy, filled with the scent of damp concrete and old memories. At the far end of the room, a single figure waited, nearly hidden in the gloom. It was Farid. Aisha's pulse quickened as she recognized the man who had betrayed them both. Farid stood with a calm that belied the tension in the room. His eyes, once warm and inviting, now held a hard glint of resolve. The silence stretched between them, charged with years of unspoken words. Malik stepped forward, his voice steady despite the storm raging outside. "Farid," he said, his tone firm. "Why did you do it? Why did you set our lives on this path of pain?" Farid's lips curved into a slight smile that did not reach his eyes. "You both always believed that trust was enough, he replied in a low voice. But there is always another side to every coin. I saw an opportunity to gain power by turning your hearts against each other. Aisha felt her heart shatter as Farid's words sank in. The betrayal was not merely an act of cruelty, it was a carefully planned move meant to weaken them both. The warehouse, with its cold walls and creeping shadows, became a stage for the final act of their tangled past. Your actions have hurt more than you can imagine, Aisha said, her voice shaking with a mix of sorrow and anger. I trusted you, and Malik trusted you too. We believed in the bond we had, and you used that trust against us. Her eyes burned with unshed tears, reflecting the pain of every moment of betrayal. Malik's hand trembled as he clutched a small, worn photograph, one that showed happier times, a reminder of what they had once shared. We built a life together, he continued, his voice thick with emotion. Every choice I made, every word I said, was meant to keep us safe. But your lies have nearly destroyed everything. Farid's calm facade began to falter as the raw truth of their feelings filled the space. I did what I had to do, he said, his voice rising slightly in defiance. The world is harsh, and loyalty is a currency traded by those who know its value. I simply took advantage of the truth that many are too blind to see. Aisha stepped forward, her eyes never leaving Farid's. The air between them was electric, the weight of all that had been hidden pressing down on every breath. There is no excuse for your betrayal, she said, her voice clear and resolute. You chose to poison what we had, to break the bonds of trust that we worked so hard to build. The confrontation grew more intense as thunder rolled in the distance and the rain pounded on the metal roof overhead. Malik moved closer to Aisha, his face etched with regret and determination. We have a chance now, he said quietly, to take back what you tried to steal from us. Our strength is in our truth, not in the lies you spread. Farid's eyes flickered with uncertainty for the first time. The tone in the room shifted as he realized that his plan had failed to shatter their resolve. I never expected you to stand together, he said, his voice softening. I thought your pain would drive you apart, that doubt would replace your love. Aisha inhaled deeply, her heart pounding with a mixture of grief and newfound strength. We have seen the darkest parts of ourselves, she replied. But even in that darkness, we have found a spark that will not be extinguished. Her words were simple, yet they held the power of a promise to rebuild even after the deepest wounds. Outside, the storm seemed to lose some of its fury, as if nature itself was acknowledging that the worst was over. Inside the warehouse, Farid lowered his gaze. The weight of his own choices pressed down on him as he realized that the power he sought was nothing compared to the strength of true connection. The truth laid bare in that desolate place was a mirror for him as well. Malik took a step closer, his voice steady but filled with sorrow. We must all face the consequences of our actions, he said. Your path has led you here, Farid, but it has not brought you the peace you were searching for. His words were not filled with malice, only with the quiet resolve of someone who had learned the cost of hidden truths. Aisha reached out and, with a calm that surprised even herself, spoke softly, I forgive what has been done, not for you, but for myself, so that I can move forward without the chains of this past. Her admission was both a release and a burden, a recognition that forgiveness is a step toward healing, not an erasure of pain. Farid's eyes shimmered with a mixture of regret and longing. For a long moment he said nothing. The room held its breath, waiting for his response. Finally he whispered, Perhaps it is time for me to walk away from this life of shadows. His admission was a surrender, a recognition that the path he had chosen had led only to isolation. In that moment, the tension in the room began to ease, replaced by a quiet understanding that no one was entirely free from fault. Malik's hand found Aisha's, and together they stood, united by the trials they had endured. The warehouse, once a symbol of pain and betrayal, now became a place of reckoning, a turning point where old wounds began to heal. As they left the warehouse, the first light of dawn began to break over the horizon, casting a gentle glow on the wet pavement. The storm had passed, leaving behind a silence that was filled with promise. Aisha and Malik walked side by side, their steps unhurried, as they embraced the uncertainty of a new beginning. They knew that the journey ahead would not be without challenges, but they also knew that truth and forgiveness were the foundations upon which they would rebuild their lives. In the quiet morning air, the memory of the night's events settled into a lesson. A reminder that while betrayal can wound deeply, it also offers the chance to learn and grow. The path to healing is never straight, and the scars of the past may linger, but each step taken together was a step toward a future where the heart could find peace once more. The experience left them with much to ponder. They had been forced to confront not only the treachery of others, but also the shadows within themselves. The moral of their journey became clear. Trust must be earned and nurtured, and even in the face of deep hurt, one can find the strength to forgive and to rebuild. In that new day, as the soft light of morning wrapped them in warmth, Aisha and Malik chose to look forward rather than back. Their love, tested by betrayal and hardship, emerged stronger, a quiet, steadfast promise to honor the truth and to seek a life filled with genuine connection. The confrontation with Farid marked the end of one chapter and the beginning of another. With every step away from that cold warehouse, Aisha and Malik embraced the possibility of redemption. Their shared pain had given way to a gentle resolve, a determination to let go of the past and to cherish the lessons learned. In the soft light of dawn, the future shimmered with hope, a future where truth and love could lead them to a place of lasting peace. In the weeks that followed that stormy night, the air seemed different, less heavy, less haunted. The warehouse confrontation had shattered illusions, peeled back layers of pain, and forced Aisha and Malik to confront not only Farid's betrayal, but the versions of themselves they had lost somewhere along the way. The morning after, Aisha stood alone in the backyard of their new apartment, modest but untouched by the memories that clung to the corners of their old life. A cup of warm tea steamed between her palms as she watched the wind sway the budding branches of a young maple tree. The world hadn't changed dramatically, but something inside her had. She wasn't the same woman who had walked into that warehouse. That woman was brittle, hardened by confusion and half-truths. This one, she was cracked, yes, but beginning to heal. And in the spaces where pain once lived, there was now room for growth. Malik had taken leave from work, not just to rest, but to understand. For too long he had numbed his instincts in the name of duty, convinced that stoicism was the same as strength. But he had realized the truth. True strength came not from holding it all in, but from being brave enough to let it out. Their days became quiet rituals, morning tea, long walks with no destination, evening talks that stretched into the dark. The silence between them was no longer a battlefield. It had become a space where wounds could breathe and new trust could root. One afternoon, Malik found Aisha sitting on the floor of their bedroom, going through a box of letters and old photographs. He hesitated at the door before stepping in. She looked up, not startled, just thoughtful. "I used to believe we were unbreakable," she said softly, holding up a photo of them at the beach years ago, sunlight in their eyes, arms around each other, the future still untouched by shadows. Malik sat beside her. "Maybe we were never unbreakable," he said. "Maybe we just thought we had to pretend we were." She turned the photo in her hand. "Do you regret it?" she asked. He didn't rush to answer. "No," he said finally. "I regret the silence. I regret not trusting you with my fears. But I don't regret us. Even broken, we were something rare." Aisha's eyes shimmered with unshed tears. "Farid, he tried to turn us into enemies. He nearly succeeded." "But he didn't," Malik said firmly. "We saw through him in time, and we faced the truth together." Aisha nodded slowly. "Truth, that's what saved us." Later that evening, Aisha found herself writing in her journal, a habit she'd dropped during the chaos but had recently returned to. Her pen moved slowly at first, then with conviction. "I've learned that betrayal doesn't always arrive with cruelty, it often comes dressed as care. That sometimes the people closest to you can hurt you in ways strangers never could, but I've also learned that pain is not the end. It's a doorway. We walked through it, Malik and I, and on the other side was something messy and beautiful and real. That night, they sat on the balcony, a soft breeze brushing their skin. Lights twinkled in the distance. Malik looked over at Aisha, who rested her head on his shoulder. "Where do we go from here?" he asked. "Forward," she said without hesitation. "Together." They talked about starting a small nonprofit, something focused on helping victims of manipulation and emotional abuse find their footing again. It was Aisha's idea, but Malik immediately offered to support it financially and emotionally. It wasn't about erasing what had happened, but transforming it, turning scars into signposts for others. And Farid? He disappeared from their lives. There were rumors he left the city, maybe even the country. Aisha never saw him again. Sometimes she wondered if he regretted anything. Other times, she let the thought pass like a cloud in a wide sky. Not every question needed answering. Not every wound needed a final word. One crisp morning in late autumn, Aisha visited her mother's grave. She hadn't been there since the incident. The leaves crunched beneath her shoes as she knelt beside the stone and laid a single lily, her mother's favorite. "I wish you could see me now," she whispered. "I'm not whole, but I'm stronger than I've ever been. And I finally understand what you meant when you said love isn't about perfection. It's about choice." She sat there for a while, letting the wind speak in the language of rustling branches. When she rose to leave, her heart felt lighter. Back at home, Malik greeted her with a quiet smile and held her hand in silence. They didn't need to speak. The past no longer loomed over them like a storm. It lived behind them where it belonged. In the weeks that followed, they built something new. It wasn't flawless. They still had difficult conversations, still stumbled over memories that hadn't fully lost their sting. But there was grace in the way they caught each other now, how they listened with more patience, more presence. Their story, once tangled in betrayal, had found its shape in redemption. And in the end, it wasn't the climax that defined their journey, it was the quiet choice to stay, to heal, to believe again. Aisha sat by the window one evening, notebook in her lap, a final thought forming on the page. We are not the sum of what was done to us. We are the result of what we choose to do with it. As she closed the journal, the last light of day filtered through the glass, warm and golden. And in that glow, the past bowed gently to the present, and the present whispered its promise to the future. If you found this story powerful, make sure to hit that like button, share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more videos like this. Your support helps us bring more important stories to light.